So the 50-50 pot this week at IG Field is going to be bumped, or whatever you want to call it, $100,000, like right off the hop. So 50 take home already, and then it's 90s night. You're going to be there.
Yeah, I'll be there because it's 90, because they think I'm 90 years old. Sometimes I dress like it.
That's 90s night. Okay, not your Grey Cup championship ring number 3. They're not celebrating that.
Yeah, I think they're doing that too. You know that, man. I haven't even worn the ring for a while, but I wore it at a wedding last weekend, or 2 weekends ago. So I'll put it on tomorrow for sure. I know I get heck from a lot of guys. Why don't you wear it? You know what? I really, to shove it on my fingers, man, it's like, these fingers are not made for rings. Even my wife gets angry because I don't wear the wedding ring.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And she's not happy about it.
You got to get that on a chain. Get that on a chain.
No, I can't wear a chain. I'm not one of those guys that's going to put all the bling on his neck.
You're wearing a chain right now.
Yeah. I just have one right here. Yeah, but that's just because it's got my number. I got this in 1981.
Okay.
My number.
63, yeah.
And now people always say, what is that? And I go, that's the year I graduated. And then they go, really? I go, no, that's my age. And then I lie because now I'm older than that, so it's not even good, man. What am I going to do?
Well, it's going to be a cool night Friday night, Chris, because they're going to wear the orange jerseys on the field during warm-up to recognize Orange Shirt Day. Every Child Matters, a fantastic initiative. The WASAC in Spirit North, there's going to be 1,000 members of the Indigenous community at IG Field, flown in from all corners of the province and hosted for the game. A special pregame ceremony, special guests. Pretty great thing that the Blue Bombers are doing to bring awareness and pay tribute to this very important cause we took notice of nationally recently.
Well, they're auctioning, as you said, they're auctioning off these jerseys, and it's a great job by Exchange Income Corporation. As you mentioned, they're flying, 1,000 Indigenous youth from Nunavut to Northern Ontario to other places, and I think from 80 communities are going to be gathered. So I think it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
I like the fact that they're auctioning these jerseys off, and Edmonton's doing it too.
Yeah.
But they're doing a different charity, and I know the ones in Winnipeg are going to the Aboriginal Sport Achievement Center. So I think it's fantastic. It's a great cause, a great thing by Wade Miller, because he thought about this at the beginning of the year. This truth and reconciliation thing. It's something that's very important. I think that they're doing a great job to, just bring awareness to this thing.
Absolutely. We'll take a moment to reflect on that Friday night prior to kickoff. But let's get it going, Chris. It's Game Day Winnipeg. Thanks for tuning in to Bonfire Sports. Darrin Bauming, Canadian football and Winnipeg Blue Bomber Hall-of-Famer Chris Walby joins me as always. Chris, you talk about polar opposites, and I don't think you could be more on the nose of that description of the direction and current situation of these two clubs playing tonight. The Edmonton Elks are reeling right now. 2 losses to the Ottawa Redblacks, and they're sitting at 2-5 on the season. The Blue Bombers continuing to roll. Dismantled the BC Lions last week, 30-9, and they're 7-1, 4-0 at home. They've won 15 of their last 16 games at home this season. It's unbelievable to think of how good the Blue Bombers are and how bad the Edmonton Elks are right now.
Well, they got a lot of situations. I know there's a lot of Brock Sunderland's taking a lot of heat right now. I think Jamie Elizondo, the head coach, is taking some heat. Obviously, we watched, he didn't want to let, what's his name, Kenny Stafford. He said it didn't fit the culture. Something that they've done a great job at Winnipeg is develop a culture, and I think they've lost that. They're trying to find that again in Edmonton, and they'll see what happens, because now they're talking. I heard the rumor mill already that, Chris Jones, who just got hired in the Argonauts as defensive coordinator to work with Rick Stuhler, is now they're talking maybe he'll come back to Edmonton but he wants to be the head coach and the GM again. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But remember one thing about Edmonton, they played pretty good against the Bombers last time, two games ago. They were up 16-15 at one point, then they fell apart. Alford got that interception, 20-yard return. Then you saw the next series, Willie Jefferson with the strip sack. Adam Bighill picks up a fumble from Taylor Cornelius, and he rumbles into the end zone and has 14 quick points. And then if you saw the other side, when What's his name? Nick Dembski.
Yeah.
A 21-yard run, broke 8 tackles. I would be embarrassed to be in that film room to watch that. It was terrible. Guys are trying to rip the ball out. They're not even tackling this guy. So, I mean, I take away those 3 big plays, and, man, I tell you what, we would have had a better football game. But when you talked about how they dismantled the BC Lions last week, that was their best game all around. We're talking special teams. We're talking defense. We're talking offense. Zach, 400, third career 400-plus passing game. Kenny Lawler, who we'll talk about. I mean, obviously, 12 catches for 200 yards. I mean, these guys are winning the 50-50 balls. Darvin Adams, Kenny Lawler, Rashid Bailey, Nick Dembski. They got a truckload of talent over there.
No question they do. And that BC Lions game, Chris, and a huge win for the Blue Bombers. Obviously, Zach Collaros named a CFL top performer, the first Blue Bombers quarterback to throw for 400-plus yards since Joey Elliott back in 2012 in a win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And obviously, Kenny Lawler. Talk about polar opposites. That's the type of week Kenny Lawler has had. Goes from the first 200-yard receiving game of his career. He was all over the field, pulling in everything. One of his most impressive catches, Chris, was one that was just kind of thrown behind him a little bit by Zach Collaros, but it was like an 8-yard gain. But, man, he's got good hands and really starting to flash that star power. Moves into the CFL lead in receiving yards as Zach Collaros moves into the lead in passing yards. And then early Monday morning, Kenny Lawler arrested for driving driving under the influence of alcohol. Mike O'Shea clarifying that it was a single vehicle incident. Unclear exactly the circumstances surrounding it, but Kenny Lawler will be suspended 1 game for tonight against the Edmonton Elks. No supplemental discipline expected from the Canadian Football League. This was an arrest and a charge. He has not been convicted of anything, but in circumstances like this, it's pretty clear what has happened. So we'll see what happens in the future. But you got to be impressed. As boneheaded and stupid and idiotic move was, you do have to be impressed with the way Kenny Lawler and the Blue Bombers organization as a whole handled this situation. Kenny said all the right things, and I'll put a little card up right now, so click on that if you want to get a whole breadth of reaction from head coach Mike O'Shea, Kenny Lawler, his apology, as well as Zach Collaros, Adam Bighill, and Andrew Harris.
It was a tough situation for the young man. I made a big mistake. I thought he said all the right things in there. I mean, it's never right. Even when you say the right things, it's not right. It's already done. The damage is done. Luckily for Kenny Lawler, there was nobody injured, himself or anybody else.
It could have been a million times worse, right?
Yeah, it could have been. And, they say, that's that old adage. Don't drink and drive, man. Be smart. And he knows that. He learned a lesson, and thank God he didn't hurt anybody. And I know the league said to the club, you know what, you guys handle it. But if you go back a couple of years, Charleston Hughes, when he was with Saskatchewan, same thing happened. The league basically said, you got to do something. Saskatchewan didn't do anything, and the last second changed it, and they suspended him for 1 game, and that's exactly what the Bombers followed suit, and they suspended him for a game. But still, that's a stain. It's going to be a stain on him. I mean, there's no doubt, had this not happened, I think he would have been a star of the week. But it just tarnishes everything. I mean, now at the end of the year, that's going to be one of those things. We saw it happen with Andrew Harris. At the end of the year for the voting for All-Stars and stuff, just because they thought he had, whatever, that's an old story. But so, you just hope the young man can learn and grow from this. That's the biggest thing I think he's got to take it. He's got to learn the lesson.
Absolutely. I've never worked in pro football, but I've seen elite level football coaches address these sorts of situations with individuals. And the message is usually the same if it's done the right way. And that's, listen, you can handle this one of 2 ways. You can let this define you, or you can do the difficult, hard work and the right things, and hopefully it can actually turn out in hindsight to be a positive, maybe a turning point for a young player who, Kenny Lawler admitted himself, was extremely immature in making that decision. So Zach Collaros gets a CFL top performer nod. Kenny Lawler does not. But the 2 that did alongside Zach Collaros were 2 Ottawa Redblacks in a come-from-behind victory over the Edmonton Elks, 34-24 last Tuesday night, and it was rookie quarterback Caleb Evans who looked comfortable, calm, composed, and really sharp throwing and running with the football for the Red Blacks against an Edmonton Elks defense that didn't really see it coming clearly, with Matt Nichols and Dom Davis both injured and not dressing for the game. And Devontae Dedmon, their very electric kick returner. I don't know why they're not getting him more involved on offense, but of course, Paul LaPolice, I'm sure he's got a little corner of the playbook ready to go. So the Elks, not just coming off a fifth loss of the season, but one to a team they should have beat in the Ottawa Red Blacks. Things have gone from bad to worse really quickly in Edmonton. The general manager, the head coach, everybody is taking a lot of heat right now, and rightfully so. Yeah. They stink. They're really bad. They're the good news is they're getting Trevor Harris back.
That's a huge step. And I just want to touch on something you said there because, again, once happened in the league, I mean, Caleb Evans. Now you saw he played against Toronto yesterday. He was brought back to earth, really. I mean, 3 touchdowns first game against Edmonton, no touchdowns last night, 3 interceptions, some crucial ones. He got 2 pick sixes on him, taken the other way. So he's brought back, and I feel bad for Paul LaPolice. And I wonder now, because they thought this was the guy that might be the guy, and maybe he still will be because he's only had a second game. But, they signed that other guy, that Duck Hodges, out of Pittsburgh. So, I mean, wonder how quick that guy's going to get pushed into that starting offense. But anyway, let's get back to Trevor Harris. I mean, I'm happy to see this guy back. I know that he could have played last week. He didn't. They wanted to rest him 1 more week for his neck. He said he could have played. He's healthy. He feels good. And listen, when he got hurt, he was leading the league, not only in yardage, but also in passing percent. He still leads the league in passing completion percentage. So that's a huge, huge boost by getting Trevor Harris back at that quarterback position for Edmonton.
Yep, he had 1,481 yards through 5 games, and you're right, Chris, he did lead the CFL. Zach Collaros was right on his tail when he went down with that neck injury. And an interesting circumstance, too, for Trevor Harris was that he was placed on the 6-game injured list, seemingly out of nowhere after, taking part in a couple practices that week. Comes off early because he said he woke up one day and felt miraculously better. I'm not poking any fun at that because I had a similar circumstance this year where I suffered, I don't know, I'm in the double digits of concussions in my life, but I saw a specialist. I felt kind of unlike myself for several days. And then one day I woke up and I felt like myself again. Trevor Harris expressed that exact thing. They had a bye week in there as well. They got a big arm quarterback in Taylor Cornelius who filled in while Harris was down, continued what you and I talked about prior to that game against the Blue Bombers on September 18th. In the XFL, he threw a ton of picks, especially late in games. Yeah. What did he do against the Blue Bombers and the other opponents that Edmonton faced? He threw interceptions in the second half and in the fourth quarter. So no doubt they're happy to get Trevor Harris back. For Edmonton's sake, you hope this is a reunifying move and they come out tonight a little bit sharper than they have as of late, because if they're not, and they're playing the same way they have the last couple of weeks, Chris, this is going to be another absolute dismantling.
I think what happens, DB, is you bring a guy back like that, he elevates everybody around him. Everybody's game rises.
You hope so, yeah.
Your star, your key player is always, the guy that stirs the drink is always a quarterback. And that's the big position. That's why they get paid all the money. Now, you're talking about a guy that's coming back now, and everybody else is happy. You're looking at a guy like Darrell Walker. No touchdowns. It's crazy. This guy is one of the deep threats. He's been such a great player all these years. They're not going to him very often. Now, they said last game, Alford did a great job in covering him, and DeAndre Alford. He did a great job. I mean, he got the pick. He read that. I watched his post game, and I was like just super impressed. He studied so much of Darrell Walker. He knew exactly where he was lining up, inside or outside the hash, and he already had his tendencies down. He knew he was going to come up. He was going to go deep. He's going to try and break it off, and he just jumped the ball and took it in for a quick 6 or a pick 6. So I love that. This is young guys, and again, we talked about this last broadcast. Jordan Younger has done just an immaculate job of teaching these young guys how to study film, how to break down, how to read tendencies that a receiver is going to cover. Done a great job.
Yeah, he's gotten the most out of those young guys like Dietrich Nichols and DeAndre Alford. Mike Jones is still a young guy too. The veterans are Brandon Alexander and Nick Taylor. And in the case of Alexander,
Yeah.
Jordan Younger talked a little bit about it this week, that there's the 4.5 hour rule in the CFL. That's the
Yes.
max amount of time
You
that
have
these
practice. From
players
films. Yeah.
are permitted or maxed out to be in the facility, doing football activities. So it's
Yeah.
up to guys like Brandon Alexander to get guys into the building early, keep them late, work
Yeah.
on film, work on things on their own time in the gym, on the field. To have a coach-like player at the safety position for the Blue Bombers is clearly paying dividends.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, listen, I'm a fan of Brandon Alexander. I think he's having a superb year. He's an all-star caliber safety right now. I talked about this before too. He reminds me of Benny Thompson. Now, Benny Thompson used to play safety for us. He went on to a great career in the NFL after, but he was such a hitter that he put the fear of God in anybody coming across the middle. They would hear footsteps and they wouldn't take their eye off the ball and drop a ball. They knew that Benny was going to come and lay a load on him. Well, that's what's happening to Brandon Alexander. You saw the hit. Great hit on unlucky now. Whitehead put him out.
Yeah.
Broken wrist. He's out for 4 weeks now. He had surgery yesterday. I hope he comes back. He's a great player for the league. But that's the type of guy he is. He punishes receivers. And don't tell me the receivers don't think about a guy like that. They're lining up. I guarantee where's 37? Where's number 37? Because he'll make you, once he hits you, you'll remember for the rest of the game where he is.
And keep an eye out tonight for Brandon Alexander against a very difficult power running back in James Wilder Jr. Let's hear from Jordan Younger. I asked him about taking down a difficult runner. Would love to get your perspective on James Wilder Jr. To the layman, he seems to have a very different running style to, most others in the CFL. We clearly see how well he is at breaking tackles. I imagine as a defensive backs coach, you coach your guys up on how to maybe attack James Wilder Jr. What do you see in him?
Well, I mean, some of it is just pure physics, right? Big ball beats little ball, and he's a very big running back, right? He's an exceptional athlete. He's a very good, he's very good in protection. He does a good job extending plays by understanding where the checkdowns are, hustling to those spots and being available to the quarterback. And for a guy like Trevor who understands how the coverage should move, he sets up throws to the check down sometimes. So just being aware of Wilder, always not losing track of him in coverage, chasing around Ellingson, chasing around Walker, and understanding that there's two levels to what they do, right? You got the receivers out running their routes, but then you also got to be aware of a guy like Wilder, his ability to catch the ball as a check down and then fall forward for another 4 or 5 yards, right? He can take a 2nd and 10, catch a check down pass and turn it into a 3rd and 1. So like that ability is, I think what makes him the most special.
What's the strategy in playing against someone who's so difficult to tackle? What's the value in laying a big hit to knock him off his center of gravity versus wrapping up? Is that a circumstance in the game, or is it more strategic than that?
I think one, gang tackle. It's like everybody has to understand we have to get to the ball, so great pursuit. And then understand that, like, wearing him down, we have to keep hitting him. It may not look like we're wearing him down early, but the more hits you lay on him, he's human, right? He gets tired, he gets sore, he gets hurt, like landing, taking those type of hits over and over and over again. When you have a defense that's committed to laying those hits, definitely take their toll, right? So I think, getting the guys to buy in and understand it, right? It may hurt us to hit him, right? But we understand we just got to eat that. And that's part of the deal if we want to beat the Edmonton Elks.
Thank you, sir.
I tell you what, DB, one thing about that, remember this is a guy hard to bring down. He ran through a number of tacklers. He had 2 touchdowns against the Bombers. He is a guy that can make you pay. And that's why one of the things I think that the Bombers do a really good job of, for the most part, listen, they're still like number 7 against the run. They give up a lot of yards. They're a bend, but don't break defense against the run. They're great against the pass. I think they've only given up 2 passes this year, 2 touchdowns. But James Wilder Jr. is a stud. Plain and simple. Big, 6'3". His dad was a NFL All-Star. He's got the genes, man. And I tell you, the Bombers have to always watch where he is. I watch for the Trevor Harris to get him more involved in the offense. Little screen passes, little dunk passes out, and try and get him in the flats. Look for mismatches against the linebackers.
Right.
It's going to be it's a great game, great chess match coming up.
Yeah, and what impresses me about James Wilder Jr. is that he has such an upright running style. Eddie George type. Big body, vertical running style, and still hard to take down. You mentioned his genes. It's clearly an extremely strong core and lower body that James Wilder Jr. has. And as you just heard Jordan Younger talk about, so often with running backs, you talk about the D line and the linebackers. It's those DBs when he gets to the second level that he's really going to potentially plow through. So it's going to be important for the Blue Bombers, led by Brandon Alexander, to take him down. But of course, as you mentioned, Chris, it all starts with Trevor Harris with the Edmonton Elks offense. They're getting healthy on the offensive line. Let's hear a little bit about Trevor Harris. He also had some very complimentary words for the Blue Bombers starting quarterback.
This defense is different. Richie Hall's done a great job through the years of mixing up what he does, and he caters it to the personnel that they have. And he's done a tremendous job this year. This defense has been locking people down and shutting teams out. I think BC's been one of the top offenses in the league, and they made it tough on him to move the ball and get in the end zone. And so it's going to be difficult. But, obviously, if we're going to, play some good ball and start a run, when we've got to start against the best. And so it'll be a fun challenge for us, and we're really looking forward to it as a unit. So I think you could probably ask 7 different things. Is it this? Is it this? And I think all of them would be true. You can start with Willie Jefferson and Jackson Jeffcoat and Kongbo and shoot. And then you've got Adam Bighill, who, sometimes he just does what he feels. He just trusts his instincts, and his instincts are pretty darn good. That's one of the best football players I've played against. And when I'm done playing, when people ask me who are the best football players I've played against, Adam Bighill's name will be up there. And it's just the consistency and the period of time that he's done it. And then you've got guys in the back end, Alexander, who's been physical, lighting people up. They've got some really good guys at the boundary that are making plays and making it difficult. And, Nick Taylor, whom I've played against, Alan Darby, and field corner Jones, he's done a great job. So they make it tough across the board with the looks, with their personnel, with their discipline and doing what they're supposed to do. And then obviously, different looks with Willie J. He's going to make things difficult always. This is a very, very, very talented and very good disciplined team who plays very hard for Coach O'Shea, and their quarterback, to me right now, is the MOP of the league.
When a quarterback who was having a pretty good year until he got hurt really talks about your quarterback in such high praise. And the nicest thing I thought he said, he says right now there's nobody in the race. He says the MOP is Zach's to lose. Yeah. Secondly, he said when he got hurt, Zach Collaros was the guy that phoned him and sat and talked to him and said, hey, listen, man, I've gone through head injuries. I've gone through this stuff. Here's what I did. And these guys are best buds. They're great friends on and off the field. They're competitive, but they have such mutual respect for each other. So that's a great trait by Trevor Harris to pump the tires of a guy that I already said going into this year, Zach Collaros, and the way he's playing. I mean, as you talk about 80-something% completion against the BC Lions, 417 yards, the highest passing total of any quarterback in CFL so far this year. Just high praise. And this guy is, and like I said, it's Zach to lose. I don't want him to lose. I think he should win. He is healthy. He's moving. He's throwing the ball as efficient. He's got such a beautiful touch on a deep ball. Yeah. 18 passes, over 30-plus yards. Now, he's getting a lot of help because, as mentioned earlier.
I'm glad you said that. Yep.
These receivers are taking, and they're getting the 50-50 balls. They're fighting guys, and they're coming up with clutch catches all the time. So, I mean, and they're spreading the ball around. There's no weakness. Now, we talked about Kenny Lawler not playing, but you got a Dembski. You got a Bailey. You got a Darvin Adams, and maybe he'll have the breakout game. Who knows, right? I mean, he's capable. He's got a great rapport with Zach Collaros as well. We all saw last year in the playoffs. Yeah. But having said that, now you got Kelvin McKnight coming in. And I know you'll probably want to hit on that because what about Naaman Roosevelt, right? We all thought this is the guy who's probably going to get the nod. He didn't get the nod. So it's very interesting. They like Kelvin because obviously he can play a number of spots.
Well, and we got to remember too, Kelvin McKnight, KJ, he likes to be called. I learned that from Zach Collaros a little bit earlier this week. he's already started 3 games in this Blue Bombers receiving core. And, we didn't talk a lot about him. Yeah. You and I were talking a lot about him through Blue Bombers training camp because he really elevated himself to amongst the new guys. Like, it was really a returning receiving core of veterans here in Winnipeg. And it was Charles Nelson and it was Kelvin McKnight who were really impressing people and definitely impressed me. Boy, he impressed me in practice this week as well. I saw him pull in 3 touchdowns in the final practice day here in Winnipeg. And those 3 starts when Nick Dembski was down, when Darvin Adams was down, nothing gaudy, 20, 29, and 22 receiving yards, 3 or 4 catches apiece in those games. But he wasn't asked to be a big impact guy. You had, other players that were stepping up, including Kenny Lawler, obviously early in the season. But those starts, August 13th, 21st, and 29th, it's been a little while for Kelvin McKnight, but he's extremely smart and putting in the work. Let's get a quick word from Kelvin McKnight on this opportunity for him.
I feel like I had a pretty good day. I'm just out there having fun. If I'm not out there having fun with my guys, then there's no need to be out there. So, we always have a smile on our face, just always have a lot of energy. So I try to bring that as well.
How much more prepared are you now, you think, for this chance than you were for your first one?
I guess pretty more because, always having games under your belt, reps under your belt, you always get better with experience. So, I'm pretty confident. Not like I wasn't confident before, but, you get a little bit more comfortable as you just, like I said, get more reps and games under your belt.
How do you describe yourself as a player on the field?
Very smart, excited with the ball in my hand when I get the opportunity. I guess my players show when it comes. I don't really like to say too much, but yeah.
You're clearly a humble guy. What do you see in this offense? What do you like about it?
Very versatile. Very versatile. That's the biggest word I can give it. It's very versatile. It hits you in many different ways. Got to be very smart in this offense. We preach every day we got to be the smartest receivers out there in the CFL, so we lean on that. So coach put a lot of I want to say assignments, but we have a big duty out there in that offense. So if we're not rolling, the offense not really gonna click. We got to make blocks, everything. So yeah.
What do you see in Zach Collaros, your quarterback?
My God, the big leader. Eight has that feeling when you out there with him, everything's comfortable. You got no worry out there when Eight's out there. So that's my guy. He's been sticking with me since I got out here. He's been in my ear. That's like a shoulder I can lean on. If I had any questions, I can always come to him. Before I even had a name, when I had like number 75 in camp, he noticed me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
I'm sure you're happy to shed that digit. Thanks, Calvin. I appreciate it. That was great.
Yes, sir.
And then you have the decision made, Chris, by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers brass to not go to the veteran and multi-time 1,000-yard receiver, the sure-handed Naaman Roosevelt. He's been here for a month and a half on the practice roster after being cut by the Montreal Alouettes. Are you surprised they're not going to Roosevelt and they're going to the young Kelvin McKnight, or do you understand the decision?
I understand the decision. At first, I was taken back a little bit because obviously you mentioned he's an 11-year veteran of the CFL. But having said that, if you listen to him talk, he'll tell you this is a different offensive playbook that he's not used to, and he's still getting used to it. Where Kelvin McKnight has played in 3 games. He can play multiple positions. He's younger. He's got good speed, and as you mentioned, he's got great hands. So for me, it's a no-brainer at this particular time to let a guy come in like a young Kelvin McKnight and see what he can do. You mentioned what he does in practice. Now, if he can translate that into the games, we got another surefire winner on our hands, because right now it's pick your poison. I mean, Zach passes this ball to everybody, and we talked about that. Where a team, I think, gets in trouble, and Naaman mentioned this, Roosevelt mentioned this as well. He went, when I was in Saskatchewan, I was like the main guy. Yeah. And, they would have to cover me and take me out of the game. Well, in Winnipeg, who do you cover? Who do you cover right now? Do I put 2 guys on Adams? Do I put 2 guys on Dembski? What about, when Lawler was playing? What about Rashid Bailey? Yep. And then you got Andrew Harris coming out of the backfield. Only 9 catches. I'm still blown away by that. 9 catches.
That used to be one game for 33.
60 plus last year.
Yeah.
He was like one of them. The guy that had the biggest yak yards or yards after the catch. He doesn't have to be that guy anymore. And that tells you how much power this offense have.
Well, that leads right into some questions I had for Blue Bombers offensive coordinator Buck Pierce on balance in this offense now that Zach Collaros is running things.
What are you seeing from opposing defenses as far as how they are playing against your offense?
Well, it's interesting because I've been asked that question a little bit, more as of recent. But, I said when, I kind of took this job, a couple of years back that the players are going to, show you what this offense is going to be. And I think, as coaches, we continue to push that narrative of, being balanced and, playing complementary football and winning, whichever way that looks. So, I think it's just a growth process, for us and everybody. And, I think you see it with other teams as well. Still, learning, what your players do well. What our guys are, capable of doing. So, I think, when you look at the last couple of weeks, there's been a growth process in certain areas of our game. And we're going to continue to, strive to improve on those and play complementary football.
You mentioned growth a lot there. And with that said, there really hasn't been too many games this year where the team has struggled to score or struggled to move the football for at least consistent periods of time. You guys have always been able to do it. There hasn't seemed to be too much of a growth curve for you. What's contributed to that in your first year as an offensive coordinator?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to credit, the players. We got a lot of, very talented players and people that work extremely hard in this building. We have an excellent, coaching staff and support staff around here that's allowed me to, grow as well. So, I appreciate those compliments, but I think, credit goes to the players for sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Now, quickly, Chris, I do want to get back to the Kelvin McKnight, Naaman Roosevelt decision the Blue Bombers made. It will be Kelvin McKnight in the starting lineup tonight. Naaman Roosevelt remains on the practice roster. And Roosevelt, hey, he's been around the block. He knows the situation. And I asked him how difficult this is, having to watch.
I'm trying to get better in this offense, so I'm around asking guys, what's going on, how they feel, what they see, and what should they doing here. So we both, I feel like I'm learning, and also I feel like I'm teaching. So it's a little bit of both, and I've been doing, feeling good about it. Just for me getting better and better, I feel like this is an opportunity that, a lot of people, still back home hoping and wishing. So for me, I'm just going, take it one day at a time and keep getting better.
That opportunity to be on the field is no doubt what you want and what many fans want, but it shouldn't look past the importance of teammates being teammates and contributing, even though you're off the field. Is that tough though, being somebody that's been so leaned on heavily in your playing career?
Without a doubt, yeah, it's tough. Me and my girl, I vent to her a lot, almost, every other day. So she heard a lot. So, for me, it's just, keep working, keep getting better. Like I said, this offense is, it's a lot of work to, to be prepared for this offense. So for me, it's just, keep getting better and better, keep learning. And I feel like week by week, it's been getting better.
Well, it's one thing to vent to your significant other at home, Chris. It's another to be a professional inside the room while at work. And by all accounts, including directly answered by head coach Mike O'Shea, Naaman Roosevelt is a pro. He's handling this the right way. Who knows? His opportunity still might come. What a great contingency plan for the Blue Bombers to have. Not another rookie and another rookie. You got Naaman Roosevelt waiting in the wings if you need him.
And the nice thing about that is, here's a guy that's on the practice roster. And obviously the culture they developed in Winnipeg allows him to stay there, and he's okay. He's comfortable with that. Whereas I think there's other teams in the league who have probably reached out and said, hey, do you want to come? Well, you can play right now, but maybe it's not a good fit for him right now, eh? Whereas Winnipeg, they're taking their time, as you mentioned with him right now. He's already mentioned that he's, he might want to, become a coach after his playing days. He loves working with the young receivers. He's passing on his knowledge. So, I mean, it's a step. Listen, 11 years. He's not a young kid anymore. So this is something that's very important. But again, it all goes back to what we've always talked about. How do you build your team and how do you keep your players happy and wanting to stay, because that's the biggest thing the Bombers have done. They don't lose anybody and they just keep adding pieces that are all exciting. As you mentioned, Kelvin McKnight. They just, it's all fit. They just fit. They plug and play. I like that. Plug and play. That's
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, like when Mike O'Shea was asked about the potential lineup moves following Kenny Lawler's suspension, he used 3 words: ready, willing, and able. And that there's a number of them that check all 3 boxes in the Blue Bombers roster to step in. So it will be Kelvin McKnight. Let's hear a little bit from Zach Collaros on his new speedy receiver, as well as touching on the Edmonton Elks and a few others.
I think KJ, since he's, since he got here, for training camp, has showed that he's a reliable guy. He's dependable. He knows the playbook inside and out, and he's an explosive player with the ball in his hands. He runs great routes. So, I think everybody has confidence in him, obviously myself included, and we're excited. He's been out there a couple times this season, and we're excited for him to get another opportunity.
I wanted to ask you about the process as a quarterback when you play 2 teams, 2 defensive systems over 5 games with a bye week in there as well. Challenges, things that are easier, your process when, those unique circumstances.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's our job to not get complacent from a standpoint of we're just watching the same film over and over again. No matter what the results are, you got to really dig in and study it and know the looks, so we can all be on the same page together out there. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is just not getting bored watching the same film, as mundane as that might become. And I'm sure that the teams that we're playing are going through the same thing, right? And just remembering that it's about, being efficient out there and executing and taking care of the little things in the process is how we've, gotten to this point in the season, and we need to continue to do that.
You mentioned efficiency. Is how much do you have to do different things when you're playing that same opponent so many times? Or is it about efficiency and execution, that if you do what you need to do properly, that you don't have to throw too many different things at the same opponent over and over?
Yeah, like you said, it's always about execution, for sure. You want to do what your unit does well. But there's always things, week to week that show up on film and say, hey, maybe we can, exploit this part of their coverage. And so if we get this opportunity and we call this play, if this coverage shows up, let's try to take advantage of it, right? There's those little things that happen week in and week out. But I'm sure if you ask any offensive coordinator, it's really, you have your meat and potatoes of what you do well, and you always want to be able to do that really well. And, add some wrinkles in here and there. And it's no different when you're playing a team back to back or, once every 9 weeks,
So while Kenny Lawler is out of the lineup and will not be a favorite target of Zach Collaros tonight, Chris, Drew Wolitarsky dodged a bullet, a real scare in Vancouver. It looked like a serious injury to his leg. But there he was in practice this week, braced up, running around, looking like his normal self. No worse for wear. And he's going to be good to go. He's not just a starting receiver, he's a starting Canadian, so extremely valuable to this Blue Bombers club.
Absolutely. Wally, as they call him, he's a tough receiver. Obviously this guy is probably going into a music career after. He loves to sing.
Or acting.
Songs. It's almost like that line you mentioned. I'm just going to ramble on this now. Ready, willing, and able. I love that line because that's how I met my wife. So that's really good, man. So I just feel like
I don't even know what that means.
I just wanted to feel like I want my wife to feel like she's part of the show. She's not. If you look behind me, she's done all the laundry. The laundry's gone.
Your setup looks great. Well, compared to last week, at least.
Well, we had all the towels and all that other good stuff. She made sure to tell me.
Well,
when are you doing it? I said, because she's at the office today. She goes, I'll make sure it's all clean for you.
No, it looks good. And your wife is a part of the show, because when I came to help set you up with that microphone and camera and all that good stuff, she was the only reason I left with a smile on my face. You were driving me nuts.
Well, I know. And she only gave you like 4 vodkas.
Yeah, right. Right. We know who drinks the vodka in
We
your
bring
house.
them here and convert you. We convert you here.
Well, Chris, Drew Wolitarsky, he is a man of many talents, but he was asked about Buck Pierce and the influence that the Blue Bombers offensive coordinator has on the offensive attack this season.
He's such a smart guy, man, and he's played in this league. He's a player's coach, you know, like he understands his game from the inside, and he gives us opportunities. Like, you know, you can draw things up, and theoretically, like, we're always supposed to win, right? I mean, that's just the name of the game, but he understands that things aren't always going to go as planned, and you got to just play football. So he really gives us opportunities to make reads out there. Like, he puts a lot of responsibility on us as an offense. But that just builds this trust level, right? So we feel like he trusts us, and we give our better effort because of that. I think that works. And we're able to think and shift things around and just play football, man, be football players. Like, I think it's that trust, again, that just makes this, and when we're playing to our best ability, like, makes us flourish, like you see.
So there's the offense for the Blue Bombers tonight without Kenny Lawler, Kelvin McKnight in, but all the other principles on offense are there. The offensive line has looked extremely dominant. They're running the football very effectively. The thing that stood out to me, Chris, is Andrew Harris looked vintage. He looked like, 2017, 2018, 2019 Andrew Harris in Vancouver last week. So everything's clicking offensively. But then you look at the other side of the football. We haven't touched on special teams. We'll get into that in your keys in a second. But defensively, this Blue Bombers defending group is reaching historic levels in a lot of ways. It's led by Willie Jefferson, Jackson Jeffcoat. I asked him about that, the re-addition of Steven Richardson, as well as facing different offensive lines and different offensive systems in the Blue Bombers situation here. And I asked Willie Jefferson about this. You play the same team, BC and Edmonton, 3 and 2 times each over a 6-week span.
Hey, Willie, it's been a minute. I wanted to ask you about Jackson Jeffcoat, the type of season he's having, and if it's different from seasons past, you two playing together, but his level of play, his impact in games, the type of plays he's making, does it make your job easier?
It does. It makes my job a lot easier, but it makes me want to go a lot harder just because me and Jackson are very competitive when it comes to each other. We train together in the off season, so we know how we like the mindset that we have going into the game and things like that, trying to get to the quarterback. And it's fun, so Jackson's having a great year, amazing year. He's staying healthy, making plays and things like that. And we're having a good time chasing these quarterbacks around, putting them on their back and, making it hard for them.
The Edmonton Elks have been a little bit banged up on the offensive line as of late. When you're game planning for an opponent, any opponent, do you look at personnel, or is it more about strategy against a team's system when it comes to the offensive line?
We look at personnel for sure. As a defensive line, we look at personnel. We try to pick matchups and things like that, which any good defense does, any good offense does. Try to pick out a weak link and expose it. And after we do that, it's basically going into the system. Like we're gonna play our game. We're not gonna, try to change anything to go at this one player. We're gonna play our game, and when we get an opportunity to expose that player within the system, then we're going to do that.
What did the re-addition of Steven Richardson do for your defense?
It really just brought a little bit more power to the inside of the defensive line. We still had Jake, we still had Sales, and we had Ricky on the inside. They're more speed, more technique, and Stove is more power, more run stop, and he's good with his hands as well in the pass rush. So with Stove being back, it just gives us a little bit more force in the interior part of our defensive line.
Well, you know what kills me? These reporters, media guys.
Yeah.
2 things have driven me nuts.
Are you talking about me?
I mean, no. So Willie deserved all the recognition. But yet, when they have the top, they have that race. They have a rating of the guys they consider MOP, most outstanding player candidates.
Yep.
And at the end of it is Jackson Jeffcoat, and they go, he's losing steam. That was the word. He's losing steam. I'm like, what game are you watching where 94 ever looks like he's losing steam? I mean, those two guys are the best in the league. There's no doubt about it right now. And then you talk about the other guy, and I'm changing his name. Steven Stovepipe. No more Stovepipe. The Bulldozer. Did you see him pick up that center on the first sack at BC?
Yeah.
He pushed that center right past the quarterback, said, oh, by the way, I must have grabbed the quarterback here while I'm going by. That guy is strong, and what a horse, but he's a bulldozer. And you can tell how much different push they get with him in that lineup. But what a great defensive front four they have. And Adam Bighill continues to play like a 20-year-old.
Yeah. Steven Richardson, the bulldozer. I like it.
I like that bulldozer, baby.
He came in after missing everything since getting injured in week 1. He told me prior to that BC Lions game, there's 7 games remaining in the season. If I get 7 sacks, that's a good season for me. So that's been his goal. And there he was, first quarter, taking down Michael Riley with an absolute dominant bull rush up the middle. But as far as Jackson Jeffcoat is concerned, like, here's the conversation coming into this season. Willie Jefferson, Jackson Jeffcoat, those guys are going to play off of each other. If you're an opposing offense, and you've been in that huddle before, Chris, and you got 2 ridiculously talented players on each side of that line, who do you focus on? How do you handle that? Can you handle that?
Well, I think you can. If I was doing that, now if I was going against these guys, I mean, listen, they're both a handful for any offensive tackle. And I know a lot of times they'll bring that fullback up and they'll, try to double chip and hit on somebody, especially Willie. You got to do something. You want to widen that gap. Basically, you got to get away from your receivers and go double tight end. You go double tight end with 2 other offensive linemen. Yes, you lose threats downfield, but you allow yourself more time to maybe look downfield. Right now, these 2 guys and the guys in the middle, they're getting such incredible push. You saw, Michael Riley. He had like 1-2 seconds. He had to get rid of that football. Once you start getting into their head, they can't even go through their reads. They got no progression of reads now. They just got to get rid of the football. Yeah. A lot of times that ends up being a turnover or a fumble or a sack.
Well, it kind of leads right into your keys to the game. And before you fire those up, Chris, I'll encourage everybody out there, swipe out a full screen right now. Hit like, hit subscribe. We appreciate it a heck of a lot. And as you see on the ticker, it's kind of driving me nuts, Chris. This ticker, very buggy, driving me absolutely nuts. But I can't put more information in there than just a couple sentences. So I'm going to really try to work on that. Been trying for weeks now. But as it says, hit up the comments. Chris and I want to hear from you. Ask some questions. Give us your hot take. We got some more exciting things coming here on Bonfire Sports in the coming weeks.
You can put my mailing address there so they can mail checks to me.
Okay, we can do that. That'll lighten my load.
You know what? We're just having fun, man. That's the thing. We both are very passionate about this game, and it's a great little platform to go and talk about it. And, from everything we're hearing and the feedback we're getting, people are loving it. So that's all you can ask, man. We're all getting a lot of love in there. And I'm all about getting love, man.
Absolutely. That's why we do it. Okay, your keys. Let's hear them.
Well, okay. To me, it's offensively doing a great job. Protect the football's number 1. 2, keep spreading the ball around. I mean, Zach Collaros is putting it everywhere. And we talked about the fact that he uses 6 different receivers. He'll hit Andrew Harris, if he has to just do a little dink and dunk pass. But I just think they need to get, and then they got to get Andrew Harris involved early. They have such balance, 20 runs, 25 passes. They're keeping every defense off balance. On defense, harass Harris. You know what? Anytime you give him different looks, you make him hold on to that ball. And actually, that's the thing that if you watch Trevor Harris's interview, he talks about the fact that it's so difficult because the pre-snap read is not the same a lot of times as he takes the ball and just goes through his drop back. Right. So he has to start going through again. What am I looking for? Where are my keys? Where's that safety? Where's Adam Bighill? We've seen Adam Bighill drop to safety sometimes. He's made a couple big interceptions. And on special teams, it's pretty simple. Will the real Ali Mortado please stand up? Because, he was 0 for 3. Then he was 3 for 3 indoors. And that's the key word, indoors. So what's he going to do in Windy Stadium at IG Field? That's what I want to see.
Yeah,
and those are my keys to the chest of love. What the hell does that mean? I don't know.
Well, people love your keys, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
A note on Ali Mortada, having that yin and yang performance from the win in Edmonton, and then the win in BC.
Exactly.
And a bye week in between for him to kind of knock the cobwebs out between the ears and those sorts of things. Kicking well at IG Field is going to be extremely important because where are we expecting the Western Final to be? It's going to be here in Winnipeg. And, I even asked Drew Wolitarsky because he talked about, goals for the team. It's always go 1-0, 1-0, 1-0 every week, 1-0. They stick to that message. They don't waver from it. But Wolitarsky did open up a little bit and say, yeah, our goal is to host a home playoff game. So they are looking a little bit ahead, but it's focused on a goal. And for Ali Mortada, in a cold weather situation, it's not like he's from the South. I know he's originally from
his mother.
Well, he emigrated. He emigrated from Civil War torn Sierra Leone at the age of 4. But he's from the East Coast of the United States and from Massachusetts. So he's kicked in a lot of rain, maybe kicked in the cold a little bit, but he's never kicked in Canada cold, in Winnipeg cold, in potentially December 5th Grey Cup cold. So getting comfortable at IG Field is going to be extremely important for Ali Mortada.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And to go back to your goals, I mean, the teams always give you that, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0 ramble. But the thing is, everybody knows that the first thing is make the playoffs. Second is host a game. Third is make it to the cup. That's the one. And then if you want to go number 4, it's win the cup. That's what you have to do. Now, look at the Bombers last year to go to the cup. I mean, it was all on the road, right? They didn't have one home game. But having said that, there's such an advantage to playing. Winnipeg fans are fantastic. It's going to be loud and proud again tomorrow. I always love that. Every time they get a first down, that's another first down. They all scream, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I know. You and I missed those times when we were on the radio for the last 7 years, Chris. But it's good for you and I to be in the building once again with so many people that love this Blue Bombers team and Canadian football. I want to ask you one final question before we get into my back and forth with head coach Mike O'Shea. This Edmonton Elks team will be playing desperate. They will be playing either extremely inspired or potentially downtrodden. They're 2-5. They're coming off a humiliating loss in a come-from-behind Ottawa Red Blacks win. They were the last place team in the league, rookie quarterback, and beat Edmonton, put them into last place in the CFL. A second loss this season to Ottawa. Tons of conversation and question and fire in the city of Edmonton all week long. Joey Moss, Eddie Steele, Dwayne Mandrunovich, all of these important Edmonton personalities have been resurfacing and brought to the news this week. Do you expect Edmonton to come out fighting tooth and nail, desperate, or could they potentially be? Because here's the thing: they're 2-5. They're not out of the West race. You got Winnipeg, you got Saskatchewan. Everybody else is kind of in there.
Yeah, I think they have a great chance. I think that's the only thing. That's the way you got to come. You got to bare your teeth and let's go. It's I hate to use this expression, but it's balls to the wall. I mean, you just got to go, man. I mean, I think the pressure's on Jamie Elizondo, the offensive coach, the head coach, and I think the pressure's on Brock Sunderland, the GM. These guys have got to get this team turned around. Now, we mentioned the fact that Trevor Harris is back. That's a big plus. Can he get, if he gets the time, I think, that they can do some damage. And we talked about this early in this broadcast. They were up at one point, 16-15 over the Bombers. James Wilder's a heck of a running back. They've got the weapons. We'll have to see. But they have to, 1, stop taking stupid penalties. 2, boy, their tackling is shoddy. It was awful tackling.
Sorry, shoddy? Was that the word you used? Shoddy?
Shoddy.
Okay, I got your vowels mixed up there. Okay.
Oh, no. This is just in case the young kids are watching, I don't use that word anymore.
I like it. Shoddy.
Why don't you tell everybody how you really hurt your neck, your head? Your wife was swinging a handbag at you all the time, right in the head. Knucklehead.
Hey, she's a clutch performer.
She's cool. Very good play on words there.
Well, whether Edmonton comes out like a bat out of heck or they come out a little bit sluggish. I had a back and forth with head coach Mike O'Shea about sensing the energy level of his team and his opponent.
In asking Zach Collaros about playing two different defensive systems over a 6-week period, 5 games, he mentioned, not getting kind of bored or complacent with the film study and, adding in a wrinkle, some wrinkles for that. From a coaching perspective, what do you need to focus on to ensure the guys don't say, okay, we're playing Edmonton again, or we're playing BC again, those sorts of things?
Well, I think Zach hit it right on there. I believe the coaching staff understands that they've got to, study the film again and come up with another game plan. And it's not the exact game plan, right? Obviously Edmonton will do something different from one week to the next. And we have to anticipate those things and look at the film and see where they might be looking at our film and saying, here's where we got them, right? So once again, I think the way we structure our week and the understanding that watching the same clips over and over again can get redundant, and then just reminding the players of that they have to stay focused, even though they might be looking at this clip over again. I think just that awareness helps the players. And then from a coaching standpoint, our coaches are always looking for that edge.
I appreciate that answer, Mike. I'm curious if you can tell, sometimes you talk about the feel of the game and those sorts of things, how the game's going. Can you tell on the field if an opponent is playing up, or I don't want to say playing desperate. That's not what I'm asking. If you can tell or sense an energy level in your opponent.
We believe wholeheartedly that every team that comes in here or every team we face on the road is going to step on the field and give the most amount of energy to the game and the most amount of focus and the most amount of physicality to their game. It's pro football. That's what pro athletes do. So it's pretty easy to always expect their best.
And if your team comes out with an energy level maybe you don't like, are there things you try to do in game to spark things?
Yeah, I usually call 2 timeouts in a row and just rip them on the bench.
What do you really do?
Make them aware of the situation. Make them aware of the situation before they disperse and start looking at stuff on the iPad. Just try and keep coaching, right? Sometimes you have to remind yourself of that, a little note to yourself to, coach on every play. And I think our coaches do a great job of understanding the flow of game.
Mike, thank you.
Yep.
Well, a candid head coach, Mike O'Shea there. His team 4-0 at home, 7-1 on the season, undefeated against the West, and that record goes on the line tonight with a scrappy, probably desperate Edmonton Elks team in town.
I agree, DB. I think it's going to be a great matchup. I really look for some fireworks from both teams. Bombers and Zach Collaros, 11-1 as a starter. Who would have thought, right? This guy's playing like he's a kid again. He's enjoying the game. He's having so much fun. But again, I got to predict that at home with the crazy crowd we're going to have and all those Indigenous youth that are flying in, I'm hoping they're going to get just a great game to watch for them as well. So listen, I don't think I have to even be bold to predict. Bombers 8-1.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, appreciate it. We'll see you down at the game. Everybody will see you on the Jumbotron down there as well. Have fun, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon. Go Blue. Look at this. Oh, I'm blue all over the place, baby.